Hi everyone, this is Vivek. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can make vocabulary learning app using Drift as a local database and Provider as a state management solution. So here I have basic Flutter app just created using Flutter create command. So let's go to the Drift documentation first, and after that we will set up it. We will write database table and we'll manage state using provider. We'll write the UI code and we'll implement the vocabulary learning feature using Drift. So open your browser and go to pop.dev, and I'm practicing some vocabulary. So yeah, you will understand as soon as we dive into the video. And here, if you search Drift in pop.dev, then you can see this first package Drift. Just open it, and then if you scroll down, and here you can see to start using Drift, read out detailed docs. So let me open this in a new tab. And here you can see Drift is a powerful database library for Dart and Flutter application to support its advanced capabilities like type safe SQL queries. Yeah, and you can read these stuffs. Okay, so we'll dive straight into the setup part. So we have to depend on these two dependencies, that is Drift and Drift Plotter. And here we have two dev dependencies as well, that is Drift dev and build runner. So basically these packages are used to generate the code, and the above packages are responsible for uh, the conversion or whatever it is. Okay, so first of all, we have to add these packages in our project. So let me just copy this code. So open your terminal in your project and just paste the command that we have copied previously. As soon as you paste these commands, you will see the four packages that we have just seen in Drift documentation here in your prospect.yaml file. So here you can see we have two dependencies, Drift and Drift runner, and it is downloading the dev dependencies. Okay, we already have dev dependencies here. So as we are going to use provider for state management, let's add that package as well, and we are going to use get it for dependency injection. So we will add that package as well, and uh, I will show how we are going to use those packages in the video. Okay, wherever we need. Flutter pop add provider and get it. So you can simply write the package name to add. Okay, we don't need to go to popular dev and search for name and copy the command every time. Okay, so if you know the package name, you can directly add using this command, Flutter add and package name. So we have four dependencies installed. Now let's run our app and we'll set up database stuffs. Okay, so let's go back to the documentation, and here you can see we can start defining our schema. So here we have to the item class and it extends table, and this table class is from the Drift package Drift. And here we have a file database.g.dart and its part. So we have to mention this as we are going to use build runner to generate this data, and you will soon see the generated code in this file. Okay, and then you have to use this drift database annotation, and here you have to put all the tables that you are going to work with. And here is a app database class that extends this private app database. And if you scroll down here, in the constructor, we are calling this function named open connection. It is responsible for opening the database. Simply uh, it's a query executor, okay, and it is going to return a drift database. So here it is shown that how we can insert the data in the database. Okay, so we'll go through all of these stuffs. So let's start with the uh, this schema definition part. Okay, so here in our project I will create a folder named database, another folder named screens, another folder named provider, another one named repository. So this repository is responsible to get all the data from the database, and it will provide the data to our provider. Okay, so inside database I will make a new file named appdb.dart. and now and now we will create another file named app_db.g.dart. So this file contain all the generated code, and we will create another file named dbtables.dart. So we are making a vocabulary learning app. So let's start writing the schema for this table. Okay, so I can simply write class vocabulary extends table. So this table is from driftdb. So let's import it. Import package drift slash drift.dart. Now here we have to uh, define our fields. Okay, so first one is going to be the id of vocabulary. So id have the data type of integer, so we are going to write int column get id, and this is going to return integer dot auto increment. Similarly we'll have, okay, so the now dart analyzer is running and it is analyzing our code. Okay, it is saying that the target of URI doesn't exist. So let's try to import it. Okay, so we made a mistake here, that is the space. Okay, we need a bracket here. Now let's create a text column get ode. So this is actual vocabulary, and here we have a text field. Now another text column for the definition of this code. Okay, so these two fields are compulsory, so you need to know the definition and the word itself. Now we'll add another for example sentence and we'll create it optional. Okay, we can use the method nullable. Okay, text dot nullable, and then we'll create another boolean variable to store either we have mastered that code or not. Okay, and by default it is going to false. So we are going to use with default method, and here we can pass some default value. Okay, so we'll pass a constant false. Now I guess our schema is ready. Now we have to set up our database. So let's go to appdb.dart. Okay, we'll switch to documentation part. Okay, so let's import the packages first. So I simply copy this, paste it here, and I can name this to app underscore db dot g dot dart. Okay, so make sure that the name is same here and here. Okay, now we'll create one function to return or to create a database. Okay, so it is going to be a lazy database, and we will give it a name open connection, just like what you see in the documentation. And now we are going to return a lazy database, and here we'll pass a function that return a drift database. So I will go to the documentation and simply copy the code. So we can simply return drift database, and we can provide the database name. Okay, now we have to write this annotation at the drift database, and inside here we have to include our table names. So we don't have to do items and to do category table, but we have vocabulary table. Okay, so make sure that you import that class. Import db table start dart. Okay, and now here we have to start defining the class app database, or we can simply use appdb extends. Now in the constructor we have to call this open connection function. So let me simply copy this. Instead of this app database, we are using a short prefix fdb, and we have to override one method named this get schema version. So let's copy this here, and you can ignore this warning. Now our setup part is almost completed. So let's start running the starting script. Okay, that is Flutter pop run build runner build. So if you want to uh, modify the code generation in the real time, then you can use watch instead of build. Okay, so if we use build command right here, then it will take the our schema now and generate a code for that. And if we use watch here, then it will generate in the real time as soon as the schema of our database changes. So is our schema is not going to change for this video, so I would like to go with build. Okay, so this will generate the code in few seconds. In the meantime, we can start working on our repository file. So let's create a new file named vocabulary repository dot class vocabulary repository. And now we have to, okay, here we have some error, found one declare output switch already exists on disk. Okay, so the problem now is I have already tried this stuff, and I think it's problem with the database name, that is my database, which is already created for another project, and it is conflicting. Now I can build, I guess. So I can simply delete by using delete command. So let's set up dependency injection part. So I will create one file named locator.dart. Okay, locator.dart, and here let's import the get it package first. So first of all, we'll create an instance of get it. Now we'll create a function named setup, and we will call this function in the beginning of the app. Now we are going to register a lazy single item that we have created. And we can pass our appdb class here. Okay, so our appdb class is here. Now we can access this appdb class anywhere in our app. Okay, so registering a lazy singleton initializes this class or instantiate this class only when necessary. Okay, so even we are calling the function in the beginning of the app, it will only create the instance only when it is needed. And the singleton class makes sure that no more than one instance of that class is created. Okay, so that there will be no problem while uh, accessing the data. Okay, as it deals with opening the database. So it's better to not mess up every time. Okay, so it will be initialized once during the app lifecycle. So now let's go to repository and let's create appdb, not appdb. So now we can use locator to get that appdb. Okay, locator dot get appdb. Okay, now we are going to define function to perform CRUD operation on the vocabulary. So first of all, we are going to get all the vocabularies listed. Okay, so it is going to return a future as it takes times to complete the database operation. Future list of vocabulary data, all vocabularies, and let's use async await here. Okay, and we forgot one angular bracket. Now let's use try catch block to handle error if we have some. So if we have some error, then we are going to log that error. So let's use the log function from dart developer and we will convert it to string. So as we have already defined the type, we have to return a list of vocabulary data. Okay, so simply we can write return await db.select, and we have to define the table, that is our vocabulary table. So if you see the app database folder here inside appdb.g.dart, all of these file is generated and we are going to work on this code. Okay, like we are not directly dealing with this code, but we are using the methods defined here. Okay, and we can simply use function get, and if we have some error, then we are going to return our empty statement. And let's define this log before return. So our first function is ready. So let me format this document by using a keyboard shortcut Shift Alt F. Okay, this is correct. Now let's write a function to get a vocabulary by ID. Okay, so future vocabulary data get vocabulary by ID. So here we are going to okay, let's copy this and let me paste it here, and we are going to select only one entry from the database, only one row from the database that matches the ID. Okay, so instead of this get, we are going to use where, and here we will get vocabulary, we will get all the vocabularies. Okay, and we will check for vocabulary ID that match with the provided ID. So we are going to return vocabulary dot id dot equals the provided id, and this, okay, and here we have to use our dot get single function. Okay, make sure that you added one bracket here. Okay, okay, and here we are going to return, okay, we are not going to return anything, but we must have to return something. Okay, okay, we can like get it from this type, so that we will return nothing uh, if we are not unable to get. Okay, so let me format this as well. Now let's try to add a vocabulary. Okay, add vocabulary async, and to add a vocabulary there is something called companion, so we have to provide a vocabulary companion. So I will simply name it BC, and let's use try catch. Okay, for adding the data we have function db.into, and here we have to provide table, that is db.vocabulary dot insert, and we have to provide vocabulary companion, that is BC. Now let's update the vocabulary, update vocabulary, and we again need vocabulary companion BC async. Let me copy paste this again. Now we have db.update function, and here we have to pass db.vocabulary, and then we have to use a replace function provided, and here we can provide vocabulary companion. So now one more operation left, that is delete. So here we will have delete vocabulary function, okay, we are going to delete the vocabulary of the provided id. Okay, so we need one id here, and the code is going to be same. So instead of this dot get single, okay, here we have to use db.delete, and we can simply use the dot go function to delete the row, okay, matching that id. Not a js box here. So we have completed the database setup stuff. We have to define our schema, and we have defined the repository. So we have our data source ready. Now let's create a file named vocabulary provided here in the provided folder, vocabulary underscore provider dot class vocabulary provider extends change notifier, and let's go to main.dart file and Let's call that setup function, and we will define a multi-provider to include this vocabulary provider. So in the main function, I will call a setup function we have created. Okay, and now I will wrap this material app with a multi-provider widget, and here we have to define provider of type vocabulary model. Okay, vocabulary provider, and we are going to return vocabulary provider. Okay, now I guess we are ready to run the app, so let's run, and in the meantime we can continue the coding steps. Now here let's write the same function that we have uh, defined in vocabulary repository. Okay, first of all, let's create a instance of vocabulary repository so that we can use that here. Now let me define list of vocabulary underscore all vocabularies. So by default it is going to be an empty list, and let's create a getter for this. So I'm making that variable private because I want to make sure that this variable is modified only from this class. Okay, so there will be no chance of unknowingly modifying this variable, and we'll get the data is expected. Okay, so we have list of vocabulary ready. Let's write a function to get it. Okay, so get all vocabularies. So here we can simply assign all vocabularies to await vocabulary repository dot get vocabulary all vocabularies. Okay, and here you can see the error. Okay, list of vocabulary data. Okay, so let's import database slash app underscore db dot. So don't forget to use the notify listener function. Okay, and let's write a function for updating. Okay, update vocabulary. Okay, so let's stop writing code for some minutes. Okay, until the build will be completed, otherwise we will have syntax error in the code and the build will be failed. Okay, Okay, I guess we are not importing this package anywhere in the app. So I see somewhere JS box. Okay, let's get it from this, both of these. Okay. Okay, let's rerun the app again. So in the screens folder, we'll create a new file named vocabulary home.dart. Here we can see the list of vocabularies available, and let's create another file named add vocabulary.dart. So this file contains a form to add the vocabulary. So let's create a stateless widget here. Okay, so let me import the material package first. Stateless widget vocabulary home. We're going to return scaffold, and let's provide a bar here. So here we have our app name, that is vocabulary learning app, and in the body we're going to use a consumer to consume our provider that we have created. So consumer of type vocabulary provider, and here we have to return a function, and it must have a okay. Let's import these first. Okay, okay, now we have to provide a function here in the builder parameter, and this will provide context vocabulary provider and child. So we are not going to use context and child, so I am using underscore instead of that, and we are going to return a list builder. So we are going to make a list styles representing each vocabulary and their definition. And we are going to return the style here. Don't forget semicolon after return statement. And let's define the item count here. Item count, and it is going to be vocabulary provider dot all vocabularies dot length. In the list style title, we can provide text vocabulary provider dot all vocabularies index dot ode. So this is the actual ode, and we can write the definition in subtitle. Okay, in the subtitle we can define a column to write the definition and example sentences. Okay, we are going to insert only one sentence as of now. So first text is going to be a definition. So let me copy this. So that I don't have to use that long statement every time. Okay, so now I can simply use vocabulary.org, and here vocabulary dot definition text vocabulary dot example sentence, and we will check. If it is null, then we will simply show the empty string. Now in the trailing we will show a check mark if it is completed, and we will not show anything if it is not. So if the value of mastered variable is true, then it is completed or mastered, otherwise not. Okay, so vocabulary dot mastered, if it is true, then we can show icon. We can check icons dot check, otherwise we can show nothing. So okay, our vocabulary homepage is also ready. So if this list is empty, then we are going to return something like there are no vocabularies as of now. Okay, so here we can write the condition something like if vocabulary provider dot all vocabularies dot is empty, then we are going to return enter child text no vocabularies added. Please add some using plus button. Okay, let's close this with semicolon, and else we're going to return this, and let's enclose this with the curly braces. Okay, and you can use const constructor to improve the performance. Now let's give the reference to this home page in the main.dat file. Okay, so instead of this default home page, we are going to use vocabulary form. Now let's add a floating action button in vocabulary home page to navigate to add vocabulary page. Okay, so let's write some code here first. Okay, it is going to be add vocabulary on the same page. So in the body we're going to use column. In the children we'll have text field, or we can use text form field. Okay, text form field for respective fields. Okay, for word, uh, definition and example sentence, and we'll have a checkbox to mark it as uh, mastered or not. So we can wrap this column with form widget, and we can uh, create a global key of form state for the validation of form. We can simply use this form here. So we will have key property and we are going to assign it here, and let's create some text editing controller for word, vocabulary, okay, and for definition and example sentence. So text form field, let's define three controller here. Text editing controller underscore word controller, rest of two for definition and example. Now okay, let's save this first and let's see how our app looks. I'm sure that we are not going to see anything. Okay, let's go to the vocabulary form, and we already have errors. So let's check the debug console. Okay, we forget to add a, so this is not a provider, instead it is a change notified provider. Okay, so we are getting that error. So let's restart again. So we are extending our class with a change notified provider, and now here you can see the information: no vocabulary is edit 8, please add some using plus button. So we don't have plus button here in the home page, so let's create that quickly. Here you can use floating action button, and here we have floating action button Z, and here on pressed we will navigate to add vocabulary screen, and here we will provide a icon. So here we can use something like child, and here we can provide icons dot plus, or something like add. Okay, let's save this, and we have plus icon ready. Let's change the color of a bar. So I prefer indigo color, and let's change its text color. So let's center this as well. So we're going to use the center title property of app bar. Okay, so make sure that um, that property is used. Okay, after this. Okay, so let's save this. And let's define the navigator function here to navigate to add vocabulary screen. So navigator dot push context material page route, and we'll land on add vocabulary screen. Now let's try clicking on this plus button, and we are in add vocabulary screen. So let's go here. Let's change the background. I will simply put the code from here. Okay, we will copy this whole app bar code. And here we have add vocabulary. So here you can see our text field, but it is not looking good. So let's wrap this text field with a padding widget first, and here we can start providing some values like controller, that is old controller. Okay, it's private, so we have to use on this. Okay, old controller, and we can provide some decoration. It's a input decoration, and let's provide some border, and we have to provide outline input border here. So let's save this. Now let's provide some values inside this input decoration, something like label and helper text. Okay, label text. So this is code. So here you can see old, and upon clicking here it goes in the border part. And let's write helper text, enter your old here. So the helper text is shown below the text field, and if we have some error in this field, it will be replaced, and the error message will be shown here. Okay, and we can have something like hint text. I'll write the same, enter the vocabulary that you want to master. So you can see the in text here, enter the vocabulary that you want to master. So let's copy this, 3 times. Okay, for definition. Okay, 2 times. So let's change controller to example controller. Instead of this, go to example enter the example of the word. So instead of this word, we are going to use definition. Enter the definition of word here. Enter the definition. So let's create a button. Okay, let's create a elevated button that is responsible for adding the vocabulary. Style text. So as soon as user click on add vocabulary, first of all we have to validate the form to make sure that user have added at least some word and definition here in these two fields, as these are compulsory, and we can skip this example. So let's write a statement to validate the form. If form g dot current state dot validate. So if this is true, then we are going to uh, add the vocabulary or make a call in database. So we'll make call in database by provider. Okay, so we'll create another function if we have not created. So we don't have a function here in provider, so we can simply write add vocabulary async. So we need vocabulary companion. Await underscore vocabulary repository dot add vocabulary bc, and then we have to call this function get all vocabularies. Okay, so as soon as new vocabulary is added, then we have to get all the vocabularies, and we can write the function to update the vocabulary as well. So I will copy the same. So you can use try catch statement to catch the errors if we encounter any. Okay, so instead of add vocabulary, I am using update vocabulary function, and same function for deleting as well. Okay, delete vocabulary. So we need only id. Okay, so print id vocabulary repository dot delete vocabulary id. So our provider is also ready. Okay, let's go back to add vocabulary string, and let's make instance of vocabulary companion here. Vocabulary companion bc is equals to vocabulary companion, and we can initialize title or code with value underscore code controller dot text Similarly, definition value underscore definition controller dot text and example value underscore code controller dot text. So if it is equals to empty string, then we are going to provide null. Null, otherwise code controller dot text. And we can skip mastered. Okay, by default it is false, but we have to add this because uh, it may be mastered in the beginning as well, but it doesn't make sense. Though let's make it here. So we can directly assign false here, or okay, let's make a checkbox here. Checkbox, and let's create a variable here for the value. Okay, so bool checkbox status or checkbox value. So by default it is false. Bool get checkbox value, and let's create a function to update the value of checkbox. I can simply name set checkbox value and simply we have to toggle the value. Okay, if it is false, then we are going to make it true, and if it is true, we are going to make it false. So it is going to be checkbox value is equals to not checkbox value, and we are going to use notify listener function to update the UI. So here you can wrap this. Okay, so we are importing drift package, and drift package also have a class named column, and we also have class named column from the material app. So you have to use some alias for the import. Okay, like this is db. Okay, so we can simply call this value with db.value. So instead of this false, we're going to use whatever value we have in the provider. So let's wrap this body with builder, and here we'll use consumer widget instead of this builder. Consumer, and here we have to provide type, that is vocabulary provider, and here we have to define three things. First one is field context, second one is vocabulary provider itself, and third one is child. So now let's go down and let's use the value vocabulary provider dot checkbox value, and we can call or set. Okay, we can call set checkbox value function. Okay, so we can simply call this function checkbox. Okay, set checkbox value. Now we have to uh, add some validation code here in this text form field. Okay, so we want to make sure that these are not empty. Okay, value if value not null dot is empty, simply return code cannot be empty. If somebody want to submit the form or add the vocabulary without adding a code, then this error will pop up in this area. Okay, so let me copy the same. Definition cannot be empty. Okay, validation step is also completed, and now instead of this false value we can simply provide okay vocabulary provider dot checkbox value. Okay, let's save this. Okay, here we have checkbox and let's add some text before it. So I'll wrap this with a row and I will add a text is mastered. Yeah, I will wrap this row with padding. As it is not visible. Okay, I think it is working now, and let's so once the validation is passed, then we have to actually insert that vocabulary in the database. Okay, so if I click on add vocabulary now, then we'll see the validation error and we have done some mistake while providing the validation function. Okay, this last part is not needed here. Okay, first we have to shift this validator function up here and let's shift this one step upward. Now let me save this again. Now click on add vocabulary and you can see the error here. Okay, let's start adding some data, random data. Okay, these are sharing same controller. Let's change it to definition controller. Okay, what we have underscore definition controller. Okay, I'm modifying the example field. Let me save this again. And now okay, each text field are associated with different controllers and this master checkbox is also working. Now we have to make a call in database and let's make this function asynchronous and then we'll call the add vocabulary function in our provider. Okay, so vocabulary provider dot add vocabulary bc, and we'll show a snack bar message as soon as it is completed. Okay, so we can use dot then method, or we can simply, okay, let me check. I am not able to get dot then. So to make this working, the return type must be future. Okay, so I can now simply uh, show the message in the snack bar and pop the screen. Okay, scaffold messenger dot of context dot show snack bar, and in the content I'm going to use text widget and display vocabulary added successfully. So let's save this and let's restart the app and let's try to add the vocabulary. Okay, let me click on plus button. Code is good, and here the definition I don't know, and we can skip the example sentence and let's check this box and click on add vocabulary, and it is triggered, but we haven't. Okay, so we are not sure either the vocabulary is added or not, but if it is not, it was not added, we could have seen some logs here, or we can see some exceptions. I guess we have thrown those. Okay, so let's pop the screen as well. Okay, so I can write navigator dot pop context. So let's save again. Okay, let's verify that the add function is working. Okay, if you see here, there are no vocabularies, meaning that it is not working. So let's see what happened. Okay, so let's go to the provider first, and I will simply print the all vocabularies are. Okay, we are not calling this get all vocabularies function, so let's add this. Okay, call this function in the constructor. Okay, so vocabulary provider, so let's restart the app again. Okay, we have vocabulary data added, and as you can see here, it is displayed as well, and it is already mastered as I have set it to true. So let's do some decoration stuff in this list tile. Okay, as it seems very ugly, so let's give this some style. Let's make font weight bold, and let's use the cross-axis alignment of column to say start. Okay, let's do some leading, and let's show a circle after, and here we'll show the index. Okay, child, center, text. Okay, index plus 1, so the index starts with 0 and we are going to show 1. Okay, okay, let's add some more vocabularies. Okay, so let's go with the actual definition now. I'm in the browser, and let me copy the meaning of good and example sentence. Okay, so let me copy the example sentence as well. What is good? It is not mustard. Okay, it seems a little bit fine now. Okay, let's try to modify this. Okay, so instead of this good, I want to add another. Okay, so let's go to the add vocabulary dot file, and if we are editing, then we need to have vocabulary data. Okay, vocabulary data. So in our vocabulary repository, we can simply pass vocabulary data instead of vocabulary companion. Okay, here we go. Vocabulary data, and here as well. So let's import the vocabulary data. Okay, vocabulary data, I'll say BD, and it can be null. Okay, so if we are adding, then we'll obviously have this value null, and let's make it final. Okay, let's make this widget a stateful widget, and we'll check either it is update or add. Okay, so let's convert it to stateless widget, and sorry, stateful widget, and in init state we'll check. Okay, we are doing this here to initialize this controller value. Okay, so let's define it here. So if pd is not equals to null, so as we are using stateful widget, we have to use widget. Okay, widget dot bd. Now if it is okay, so if the value of vocabulary data is not null, then it is update, and we have to initialize the value of text editing controller. Okay, so we can simply do something like word controller dot text is equals to bd dot text, bd dot word, widget dot bd dot word. And you can simply use a null check operator here, underscore. So after this we have sample controller dot text is equals to widget dot bd not null dot example sentence, a value of type string, nullable string. Okay, okay, if it is null, then we are going to provide an empty string. Okay, underscore definition controller dot text. So we have initialized these three text fields. Okay, we'll get the value of master from the provider, so we don't need to worry about it. So I guess let's attempt operating. Okay, and I realized that we have made a mistake by changing the value of vocabulary companion from, okay, while updating the vocabulary we have recently changed it to vocabulary data, but what we are getting here is vocabulary companion. Okay, so it could have, okay, if we haven't changed the value of, change the type. Okay, so we'll change it to default. So let's change something here. Okay, so if the value of bd, okay, if widget dot bd is equals to null, then the value of text is add vocabulary, otherwise its value is update vocabulary. Okay, okay, I guess we have, okay, let me undo this, we missed with some bracket, I guess. Okay, so we can simply go to this vocabulary, add vocabulary screen upon clicking on this list styles. Okay, so here instead of adding the vocabulary we have to uh, update. Okay, so if widget dot bd is equals to null, If it is null, then we are going to add and show this message, otherwise we are going to update. Okay, else let me copy same, and here instead of this add vocabulary we can use update vocabulary. Okay, let's go back in vocabulary repository and change it to vocabulary companion. So make sure that you change it here in repository and provider. And let's change the text here as well, like a vocabulary updated successfully. So let's try this. Okay, now go to home page, vocabulary home page, and if somebody click on this list tile, then they will be landed on the edit page. Okay, that is same page which you land on clicking, but this time we are passing the vocabulary companion or vocabulary data. So here we can simply pass bd is vocabulary. So this is the vocabulary data. Okay, so let's restart tab, and we have our data, and all these fields are initialized. So let's change this value of good to bad, and the meaning of, and last time we have meaning of get desired of something, something. Okay, and I will simply write it not desired, and for example is very bad. So let's try to update the vocabulary, and so we can see the change. Okay, so let me reload, and still we are not seeing the change. Let's restart and see why the change is not made. We are not able to update the vocabulary previously because we forget to add id in the vocabulary companion. Okay, so if we have to update, then we have to identify which vocabulary to update, and the id is responsible to uniquely identify each vocabulary. Okay, so let's go to add vocabulary string, and instead of this vocabulary companion we'll create a separate vocabulary companion. Okay, so that include the id. So let me paste it here, and let's add another field named id db dot value, and we have to provide widget dot vocabulary data dot id, and let's use a null set operator here, and I guess we are good to go. So let me click on this code, and let's change it to bad, and instead of I don't know, let's say not desired of the rover is bad, and let's click on update vocabulary, and you see it is updated instantly, and we see the fresh data. Now let's try to delete some vocabulary. Okay, so if somebody double click on any of these, then we are going to delete. Okay, so let's go back to the vocabulary home page, and here we have property called on double tap. Okay, on long press. Okay, so if somebody long press on each item, first of all we will show dialog, and if they are sure to delete, then they can delete. Okay, you can simply call a function named show dialog, and in the builder we can return alert dialog. So in the title we are going to provide, are you sure want to delete this vocabulary? And here we have something called actions, and here we can provide some text button. Okay, so the first button will say yes, and second will say no. So if they don't want, we can simply close the alert dialog by calling navigator.pop of context. And here we can simply call the function, okay, that we have defined in provider, that is vocabulary provider dot delete vocabulary, and we have to provide id, that is vocabulary dot id. So I guess it must work, so let's save this and let's give a try. So let's delete bad, click here. Okay, not clicking, just long press here, and it is asking, are you sure want to delete this vocabulary? If no, then it is closed, and if yes, then it is gone, and we have to uh, close this pop-up. So we can simply call navigator dot pop of context, and you can show some message in snack bar if you want. So let's try to delete this, and it is gone. So guys, uh, we have performed crowd operation on this vocabulary data, that is we have created a vocabulary, we have updated a vocabulary, we have deleted a vocabulary, and we have fetched all the vocabulary available in the database and displayed here in the home page. And we have completed basic crowd operation on the local database using drift. So uh, it is persistent. Okay, so it is saved in the device memory, and the app data will not be gone until the app is uninstalled. So in the upcoming videos we will cover the relation in the database. Okay, so how we can associate it each vocabulary with its category. Okay, so guys, how's this video? If you like this video, give us a thumbs up, and if you have any problems while following the steps shown here, please don't hesitate to comment below. Thank you for watching.